Hello, 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 hello. Thank you for joining us for another podcast episode. This is a random once pop up a spirit on something that God has placed on my heart and in my spirit. And so I wanted us to talk about is love. Love. We have a guest that will be joining us tonight, but I want you guys to be special guest as well. So I want you guys to tune in, to chime in. I want you to let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you guys are thinking and join the conversation. So tonight we're talking about this love is love. And so I have been reading a lot of commentary on things that I've been talking about this friendship, talking about um, the latest incident, the beginning lady who has lost her life through an incident where she was actually with friends. And it's very sad that nowadays you have to watch out for our friends in the way that we're having to watch out for. We've always had to watch out for who our friends. I remember my mother used to always tell me when I was growing up, you don't do anything, but those are not your friends. It was very true that she would even say that we are not friends even as a young adult. She still would not say, she always said, we are probably your friends. And indeed, they're not your friends. And so I wanted to get on here and talk about not just the friendships, but intimate relationships, what's within love, and things of that nature. What does love have to do with it? And one of two reasons that really sparked my interest and really made me um, think about it. And the Lord actually came in and began to deal with me. Hello, hello, hello. And the Lord began to deal with me on this subject of what is love enough. Is love enough? And so I want to read something that Larry Reed live had actually posted. And it says, love isn't enough. There has to be honesty, trust, capability, compatibility, loyalty, shared values, beliefs, understanding, communication, and attraction. So he's saying his comment is saying that love isn't enough. And I want us to really talk about it. And I want us to talk about it first off in a romantic relationship, intimate relationship. Is love enough to keep us together? Is love enough to keep a marriage together? And I have invited my sister, friend, my one of my best friends, Stacy, on with us on tonight because I believe that she's seasoned enough, and as well as I am, to talk about matters of the heart. Because I think that you know um, love isn't, my opinion is love isn't enough to keep people together. You know that Tina Turner song, what does love have to do with it? And we know her story. Um, because you can love somebody and they can be beat you to death. And so love isn't enough in my opinion. So I want to ask you, Stacey, what do you think? Do you think love is enough to keep you in an intimate relationship with one?
Well, first of all, hello everyone, and absolutely not. We wish it could be that simple, but love definitely is not enough. I know right now you're focusing on, I guess, the relationship aspect of it, but
Hmm.
um, being a fairly new wife, facing so many different challenges with a different environment, getting to know my spouse on a different level, and just other outside things. So you really have to, number one, have a good outlet, not the husband or the wife. In some cases, I know, we say we want them to be our best friend and our confidant and all of that. Those things are good, but me personally, I just don't think that every single thing can or should be necessarily shared. um, God, the spiritual aspect has to be involved so that you can actually know and hear from God what can be shared, what can be handled at that present time, or even if at all. So when I say a confidant, perhaps a therapist, counselor, I don't necessarily recommend family, because that may change their view on the person, and you're still in love and still going to be there. But you definitely need some additional things besides love. You need counseling or a confidant. As I said, you need God, definitely for me and my relationship personally. Um, yeah, and yeah.
And like I was saying earlier, is that when you're entering into these intimate relationships and things of that nature, I believe the first foundation you need to build is a friendship. you know and so two healthy adults coming together and building that foundation of friendship is very, very, very important. And a lot of times what happens is that we get into these relationships, we're so excited, especially if you've been single for a long time. You kind of jump into it and it's like, oh, that's my friend, that's my friend. And then all of a sudden you start using the L word, love. I love them, I love them. And it's like, do you really know them enough to love them? And so when I say, is love enough, is it enough to keep you in this relationship? Because do you really love them, or do you admire them, or are you infatuated with them? Do you know them enough to even know that you love them? Does that make sense? Because when I think of love, even if I'm talking about my friend, like, so if I have a friend, like, me and you, we've been friends for a long time, but we had to get to a place where we knew each other. So I could say, you are my friend, you are my circle, you are the one that, I trust with my secrets. You're the one that I trust with this, or the one that I trust. And so when you think about intimate relationships, and if you're building that type of foundation, are we really building that foundation of friendship where I can trust you with my stuff? And then also, another way of looking at it is, you know, we think we can, but we're not really looking or hearing or seeing them in the correct lenses that we should, because do they really have the capacity to hold your stuff?
So you brought up several good key points. Let me start with love and the many different dimensions of that. Because you were saying, is it infatuation? Is it admiration? You know, here's the thing, people often confuse loving someone with being in love. Those are two different things. Um, I can love the way you make me laugh. I can love your sense of humor. I can love that we have a common denominator that has linked us, whether it's, which you really have to be careful of that, because that one is a big one.
Mhm.
People think that, oh, this is the one because you share a past experience, whether it's, and oftentimes it's traumatic, but nevertheless, it's so many different levels of love. But the one thing that you said that I like is you definitely should be friends. And it still ties into what we said, is love enough? No, because you first of all need to have a friendship established. You need a foundation with anything that you're building. There has to be a foundation. If you look at construction, you start from the bottom up, so there has to be a strong foundation. Okay, respect is another thing, because most friends that you have, you do again have a common factor. It may begin with, oh, I love your hair, your outfit, and it can grow and get deeper on another level. Same thing with, a relationship. It's about building. So once you have that common factor, or that, attraction, or whatever it is, then that is the time to build that foundation and to grow into knowing that person, not just the surface. We have to get beyond the surface. And so with that, the friendship, and then you mentioned trust, all of those are other factors that have to be included. Love is absolutely not enough. There has to be, and I keep referring back to the Bible, because is so true for me. There has to be patience. There has to be kindness. There has to be understanding. There has to be that friendship that we talked about, respect. And all of that is through the other key thing for me, which is communication,
Mhm.
and learning to like each other first. Like who you are, because I can love you and not like you as a person.
Mhm. And let's talk about that, because I had a conversation with someone earlier today, and I was saying that, I want to be with somebody that I like. because a lot of times, we hear that men are, they see first, they got to be attracted to what to somebody that they're going to even think about. But I also know that men can sometimes be a little physical too. And so, but I'm like, take the physical off the table. I want to know if I'm going to like you, because anything could happen within a marriage and the physical can't be there anymore. And so if I can't roll over or lay in that bed with you and say I like you, that's going to be a problem. I'm going to find it difficult to stay in a relationship with you. I
Yeah,
mean, I know I am. If I don't like you, if I don't like how you talk, if I don't like that you don't communicate, if I don't like that you're a surface person, but I based our whole relationship on this animal attraction, because we're something else in the bed, but now that's off the table. What do we have?
right. And that goes back to what we were saying in reference to building. I can remember a long time ago, long, long time ago, not telling my age or anything like that, but I was definitely in my early 20s and I had a private duty case. And there was this gorgeous, gorgeous older lady, and she was taking care of her husband. Recently had a stroke. You could tell they were absolutely a stunning couple because this man, even in his latter years, and I mean, they were I'm sure 70s, early 70s, late 60s. He stood even then about 6'4", 6'5". So, and he was slumped. So before, I'm assuming he was like 6'6", 6'7", pecan brown complexion, gorgeous silver wavy hair. The lady was beautiful, pecan, long length. They were just gorgeous. And she watched me because I was in a troubled relationship at that time. And some days I would get dropped off, and apparently, she could tell by, my, I guess, my attitude, or sometimes being on the phone, or the person being late picking me up. And so one day she pulled me to the side because I really grew close to them, and she said, let me tell you something, honey. She said, that man in there that you take care of is a mean something. She
Mm,
said, and I don't want you to be in this position. She said, I see you on that phone arguing. Some days you come here, you look as if you've been crying. And she said, it is not worth it. You make sure that you like that person, not just love them. She said, because that man in there, I have to pray every day for me to take care of him because he has had a stroke. And when he was younger, he was a liar, a cheater. Yeah, he was a provider, but he had all those other things. And there were multiple women, and now that and he was obviously older than she was. She's like, now that he's older and sickly and can't, like you were mentioning, perform, I'm just stuck with someone that and she did use the word stuck. Because of her walk with Christ, she was determined to stay married because it's not just because of, and I guess when she was younger she had every right because there was adultery involved, and she's
hmm
fully aware, but she still chose to stay. And she said, I'm stuck now with the person that I don't even like. And I have to pray every single day. And he has the nerve not to even be kind. He has the nerve to be mean. And she said, do not be that person. I
mm,
never got that. And that was many, many years ago, as I stated. So that is very key because those are two different things. I have to like who you are, learning a person's heart, making sure that you guys have some of the same standards, that you have some of the same goals. It goes back to communication. You have to have that. You have to have those hard to have conversations. And later, this is as we're building, initially
mm,
you don't, I guess, you ask your general questions, or like we said, surface, and then you grow to that. But you definitely want to know what your short-term, long-term goals are. um, the religious aspect, that can be another thing that can separate you.
yeah.
Salaries, money, Is it okay if, for a lot of men, they have an issue if the lady makes more money,
Mhm.
or if she decides not to work and be a stay-home wife, or are we in that position? So there are so many different conversations that need to be had. But absolutely, you definitely need to build that friendship first and see if you are compatible, or if you, like you mentioned, even like each other.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times what happens with what I have been finding here lately is that a lot of times people don't understand what their values are. And so one of the things I take a lot of my people through is I ask them, what are your values? What are your values? Because when you can tell me what your values are, and surprisingly, a lot of people do not know what their values are.
Yeah. Values. And another thing that I've learned recently with the help of a very good counselor, learning boundaries.
Hmm.
Learning what they are for yourself, helping someone to know what they are, and sticking with them. I understand that we have to, compromise in life with certain things, but it doesn't mean compromising who you are as a person or your integrity or things like that. I know it's all give and take, but I am saying that, the values, and letting it goes back to, sharing. This is what's important to me. Family is important. And sad to say, but money. I think I know for a fact you and I have had private conversations, and I one thing that I took from Tyler Perry is the different stages that you need to see a person, because each time you get a different character, when they're happy, when they're sad, when they're angry, when they have money, and when they don't. Because each time, each emotion may generate a different part of who that person is, because there are so many facets to who we are, and it's not just one thing.
Hmm.
So, have that discussion about the values that you mentioned, and some of those things will come out. It will come to light. And sometimes you need to listen for what's not being said, because you can hear a lot in that. You really can.
Yeah, and we need to not listen to what we want to hear. Because it's in what, like you said, it's in what is not said, and we need to learn how to ask those very important questions, such as, um, you know, have how many times have you been married? And let's talk about if you've been married more than one time. Let's talk about that. I want to talk about, and I want to hear. And a lot of times I tell my young ladies is that if they're still talking negative about their ex-wife, then baby, they're not healed.
Right.
Because they're in every relationship, it takes two. And there's a and the even in the downfall of a relationship, it still takes two. Whether you have to admit that, hey, I made the wrong choice, or I thought I was ready, and really I wasn't. It's something you played a part in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And when you can't say, you know what, I don't have anything to say about my ex, because I knew God gave me insight. I chose to run over what God showed me, and I just kept on going with the ball the way that I wanted to go, because we all play a part, and we got to admit the part that we played. In order to really fully heal, we have to admit that I played a part. And I don't care how bad the person was. There came a time where we saw who they really were, and
Hmm.
we chose to stay. We chose to move forward. Um, and so we have to own that fact.
Yeah. And with you saying that, with being healed, that's the only way that person is going to admit that they had fault. Um,
Hmm.
honestly, if they are healed, and along with that, healed and delivered. So delivered is okay. I'm no longer that person. You can say, yeah, that hurt healed, but have you changed?
Right.
Because with healing comes change.
Hmm.
And so with that's where the deliverance comes in at.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I am not the same person that I was yesterday, the day before, definitely not last year or the year before, but I have room to grow. I have really, this past year, has been challenging. And, God actually set me up for it. And it's just so funny because I have learned not to necessarily, and I was doing a great job for the most part, but try not to have those emotional responses.
Yeah.
And have to keep in mind that we can't take back things once they cross our lips. So that's why we have to take a minute and pause. And so many different times I've not done that in my own personal relationships, whether it's, with my son, with my friends, and definitely with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
But, and sometimes doing that can be costly, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you just have to really be careful not making those emotional, responses and things like that. And like you said, when you have the healing and deliverance, you will have some accountability in your part if you did have what you were saying, like that failed marriage or relationship prior to. Because I think for all of us as a person in general, even if it's work, what did I do or what could I have done differently? I try to ask myself that in every aspect of life if there is an issue, and look at it from someone else's lens. That is key. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just your point of view. That will help you be a great, well rounded person across the board. And it will definitely help you in a relationship because it is two involved.
Yeah.
So I know the two come together as one, but at the end of the day, you guys have to get to that point. And until you're there where you have that understanding, like you're my friend, I can hear in your hello if you're in a good place or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it should be in a marriage or in a relationship, but it has to grow. I didn't know that some years ago when I was younger and silly. I was all over the place, but I took the time to learn you as you did me. And that is why our friendship has withstood the test of time, and that we both were willing to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. If I hurt you, that was not my intent, and to be transparent. But that comes along with the building and the trust, to be able to trust a person with my vulnerability, you know?
Yeah.
So all of that the trust factor, being healed, delivered, all of that, because once you are healed and delivered, then, if you take the time to get to know that person, you know, you should be able to open up and trust. But that comes back with the values. Find out who they are and those things, and your comfort level will change. And you may be able to take it to that next level with the trust and being, who you really are and letting them in.
Yeah. And I wanted to say something as you were talking. It reminded me, I posted something earlier, a video, and this man was saying that it's unfair. It's unfair to be in a relationship with someone where you're constantly having to remember that you had to forgive them for something they did to you that broke the trust. And depending on what it was, because if you are in a healthy relationship, it shouldn't be something simple. It has to be something major to break the trust in a relationship.
Mhm.
And I do think it's very unfair, for someone to have to sit and look at someone day in and day out knowing what this person has done, and then I have to heal in the same environment. And now when I say that love isn't enough for me to stay here, um now I'm being questioned about my values, my loyalty, my commitment to this marriage. But depending on what it is, I want to use some infidelity.
Mhm.
Infidelity is one of the major things that I believe that within a marriage is something that will break the trust. And now you want me to stay here and heal in this same environment. I think that love in this in that stance is not enough to make me stay, because how can I? It's not fair for me to have to roll over and look at you knowing that you've been with another woman. It's not fair for me to be in the same house knowing that you've been with another woman. Um, for me, I can say for me, I can't speak for other women, that love then isn't necessarily enough for me. Especially
Right.
if you have not communicated to me that there's a problem. If you have communicated to me time and time again, if I have withdrew sex, if I have not given you met your needs as you have so communicated to me. But if you haven't said any of those things to me and you just went out and you cheated, I can't see myself, me personally, if that makes sense, staying. Now it's a difference when I come to you, and I say that you're not meeting my needs. You're not meeting my needs, and you're being selfish. You're not loving me the way that I know I need to be loved, and you're very emotionally. I feel like you're punishing me. for whatever the reason, or emotionally you don't have the capacity to be there for me, that's a lot for somebody else, for somebody to really be faithful. And I know it's oh gosh, I hate to say this, because people are going to be like, she's a pastor, she's this, she's that. But honestly, we're gonna be honest, we're humans. And so
Right.
if I'm in this marriage with you, and I want you and I need you, and you're just got this wall up, and you're not being who I thought you were in the beginning, and you're not, you're cold to me, you're not giving me intimacy, you're not having sex with me. We're going to be honest, because that's one of the biggest failures and why marriages fail. um and you want me to stay faithful to you, but yet Johnny is giving me the attention, he is talking to me, he is listening to me, he's been everything that you're not, you know. I think that's different. And I'm not saying that people should stay regardless when somebody cheats, but I'm saying I believe that there's a difference. I'm gonna put a difference on it. If somebody came to me and told me that, hey, you know, as a client, a counseling client, I'm gonna probably be sitting back saying, well, I kind of understand. I ain't gonna say it right, but I'm be thinking to myself, I understand. But you know, but if it's just somebody that cheated, I mean, because I wasn't married, but I was the one that was cheated on. And it was like, why? I'm like swinging from chandeliers. I'm giving you everything that I got. What is it that made you want to go and be with somebody else? And that's just with a girlfriend, boyfriend.
I'm
How in
gonna
the world?
look at you at the top of the glasses, the chandelier, Miss Ma'am. Okay.
I ain't always been safe. So, but but you know, but within a marriage, in a marriage, I can't,
Yes.
I made these vows. How in the world? So is love enough?
So
For me, I can say for me, I don't think I could stay.
going
Jacqueline
back,
said, look, Jacqueline said, I want to put her comment back up. She said it would be a challenge for her to stay as well. I mean, I know I could. I mean, I couldn't, I don't think I could look at you.
yeah, I want to back it up to where you pointed out before it gets to that. Have you spoken with me? Have you talked to me? Have you told me what your needs were, that they weren't being met? This. I want us to look at that, and we have to be really, really careful to make sure that we are capable of handling the truth, because it's not always nice, it's not always pretty. Because are we sure? And I tell people this when they ask questions, make sure you're prepared for the answer. We ask questions and then we get angry and you punish that person for their honesty. So if can we really take it, that goes back to the trust factor, that goes back to your foundation. And even then, if you have all of those things, that is a tough conversation to have. If I were to say, honey, you know, you are working, you're super busy, I never get to see you, and I know that I am working here, and like you said, Johnny is looking at me and he never forgets to tell me that I'm pretty or that I'm gorgeous or, you know, whatever. You know, I like Johnny, he's attractive, nothing has happened, but you know, I'm telling you that he's has my attention and I need more of you. That could spark a lot. Depending on who that person is, they could withdraw, they could hold your honesty against you and push it further away. So you guys have to make sure that you have that relationship and that that person can handle the actual truth. You have to find a way to deliver what your needs are without creating a larger conflict. But that goes back to knowing your partner, knowing what they can handle and a different way to address them. Not that you're not being honest, but everyone has a different language, everyone has a different way that they can receive. So you have to know that for starters. And no, it's not fair. You also said it's not fair for me to still lie beside you, knowing that you've been with someone and this. But that's a choice. If you are dedicated, if you've made up in your mind, I am still going to make this work. We love each other. We both of us have dropped the ball. We're going to make it work. You know, you can't sit in resentment. So if you've made a decision to stay there, you have to take the necessary steps, whatever they are, to rebuild and get back to where you were and better. So what are those steps? Write down or find out what it is that you will need to be able to go past that. You have to forgive, number one, and the resentment. Find out the why. You know, it may not be about you and what you weren't giving. It may be something inside that those people still had that they weren't even aware of that caused that. So find out, both of you, figure out the why. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
then what does it take? What will it really take for me to get back to where we were? And is that person willing to do it? For one person, it may be, oh, well, she likes attention. Maybe I should call her and, for and say, hey, I'm at lunch, honey. Hey, I'm this until she gets more comfortable. Not that you're checking in or someone is micromanaging the marriage, but whatever steps it takes to get back to that point. And it may seem like that, but if that's what it takes to get back to where you were and better, then that is what you do. But if you feel like you're going to try to stick it out, you have to be willing to forgive and not remind that person every day of what their sin was or their crime. No one wants to hear that. We don't want to hear it. So don't do that to someone else. You
And I
know,
think, yeah, and I know what you're saying, but I think it's easier said than done.
it
So
is.
if I make the decision to stay because I feel like, oh, I love them, but really, if we be honest, if we really, really be honest,
Mhm.
child, I'm gonna be sitting there thinking about it. What? Because let's talk about like, to me, women. I know most women that I have counseled. I hear this. I'm not gonna lose. I'm not about to lose to another woman. You think you gonna leave me for them? No, no. So I think it's more so women stay a lot of times because it's like, I'm not gonna lose. I'm not about to lose this, and it's wrong thinking, because in reality, one mistake is one thing, okay, you made a mistake, but then I don't find out it's more than one mistake. You don't did this over and over. You've been with this individual over and over. Then I might have to think that there's more to it than just this right here. Because why are you continually being with this person? And then if it's so dang on bad, why are you still here with me? And so, am I really losing, or am I choosing myself and my self-worth over you not seeing me in the light that you should see me, respect me enough to say, hey, enough is enough. I don't really want to be with you anymore. And then why do you want to be with me and somebody else? Because we're just talking about, it's love enough to stay in different scenarios, y'all. So for some of y'all who are just joining us, we're just talking about different scenarios, different points. Is love enough to stay? And we're talking about, we've gotten on cheating, but I want us to talk about other things within a relationship as well, because let's take it away from cheating. Let's talk about when your partner isn't communicating with you. I think another big thing is when your partner stops communicating. So here it is, we're in the house, we're having great sex. You are a provider, you are, doing everything else, but we don't talk. So here it is, we're in the house and we're having dinner and there's no communication. Or you're doing all the communication about yourself, but you don't care to hear about how my day went. You don't care about my feelings. You don't care about, my innermost concerns and things of that nature. So when communication isn't there, can I still stay here? Is love enough to keep me here with you? Because working in the healthcare field for all these years that I've been working in it, the number one thing that I've heard from people who have been married for 30 plus years, 60 plus years, I've always heard communication. Baby, the key is communication. Communication. So, okay, if we're not communicating, can I still stay here? Because it's like, I just got a roommate.
Yeah, communication is absolutely essential. And oftentimes opposites have married, opposites attract. It's true. So for me, when I was younger, I think I was more of an introvert. And as I grew older and learned who I was, I am so the total opposite. I still have moments where I'm quiet and really short and misunderstood a lot, if you will. But I am such a cut up. I'm such a clown, and certain personalities like
Yes,
yours
you
ever will bring it out. But I married a total introvert, and it has taken a lot of adjusting because he likes quiet time. A lot of quiet time, and I'm like, but I want to talk. And it's a lot. And so you guys have to, there's no way around it, you have to meet in the middle because it's not fair to one or the other. you guys have to decide and, respectfully, okay. And I'll use this for an example. My husband is not much of a people person. Well, he is, but he's not. He really loves people. People love him. He's, just a bunch of laughs, and he's full of energy. However, the other piece of him, he'd rather be home than outside.
Yeah.
And so, but because he knows that I love being out, I love nature, I love the outdoors, I love seeing what's happening, but I like home too. I have those moments, but I'm more the other. So he would, I saw him bending and changing, and, he would plan, okay, after church, we're going to a movie, and I knew nothing about it. He had already made those plans. So you have to be willing to adjust who you are sometimes. That's just the bottom line. And taking the time out to learn your mate, because he knew that it would be an issue if we stayed in the house so much, or if we never did anything that I liked, or if I did those things alone all the time, because Stacy has no problem with going out solo.
Mm-hmm.
So because, but who wants to, if you have a mate, all, who wants to do that all the time if you have that mate? So he recognized that, and I saw effort and was appreciative of that, and let him know, thank you so much. I know this is really not what you do. You have to acknowledge it when you do see those changes too. That's also, or it will come off as being unappreciative, or, like it doesn't matter. And you don't want that either. So, you have, it's give and take. That's just across the board and what it is. And even with your communication, that is how you get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
um just even like triggers, or learning, that's another thing that we talked about, what the triggers are. Some people use those in the wrong way. They will use those to actually attack, or use those in a fight, whereas you should be using that to keep the peace. I know that this is going to bother him or her, so let me not do that. Let me figure out another way around that to
Mm-hmm.
get my point across. So, communication, learning those things, learning their love language, learning what sets them off, what they don't like, what sets them back. It's a lot of work. That's just, there's no way around it. It's a lot of work, but at the end, it's worth it. It's worth it, because what you can build is something incredible. you
Yeah.
know you can have that best friend, that whatever, that
Right.
person that, what we talked about, in a different matter, that just smiles when you walk into the room, or you light up.
Mm-hmm.
You can have those things, but it is work. You have to build to it. And that communication, which is the other key we were saying, with no, love is not enough. That is probably just as important as the love aspect.
Right. And I wanted us to talk about, because he also on his post, um, where he said love isn't enough, he said he talks about the shared beliefs. And so I had a conversation with someone earlier today, and we're talking about shared beliefs. And I had brought up the example of a Muslim. I said, if I'm a Christian, they're Muslim, it would be hard for us to really make this thing work. I said, especially if they are dedicated Muslim, you're a dedicated Christian. I said, how in the world could you make that work? Because to my understanding, and I could be wrong, those of you who are out there listening, you correct me if I'm wrong, but they pray several times a day. And so if I'm one that don't pray like they are praying, you're wanting me to pray, you wanted me to dress a certain type of way because that's a part of your faith tradition, and I'm a Christian and I don't believe in those things. How in the world are we going to make this marriage work? Love now, I don't believe is enough. If I am um, one that has a certain belief system, such as, I can tell you one thing, especially when you're marrying someone that is have children already. So I'm a single mother. Let me use me. I'm a single mother, and even though my children are grown, we know that they stay here. And so I'm like, in back out here. Those of you who don't know, I've been talking about. I'm back out here. Stacy knows. I'm back out here in these dating streets, and I said, Lord, I don't think I'm ready for these streets. I thought I was. I thought they weren't ready for me, but I ain't ready for these streets out here. But with me having my children here, my biggest thing is, I'm dating with a purpose. I'm not dating just to be dating. I'm not just out here taking free meals and just doing things like that. So I'm dating with a purpose. And so the thing is, my thing is, where I stay is my children's home. And so when I do get married, we will have to get our own home. And there are some people I have talked to, and they're like, well, why don't you just sell it? Well, why do you want me to sell my house? My belief is this is something generational wealth. I want this to be for my children. I'm not going to always be here, and this is what I want them to have when I'm gone. They
Hmm.
have something. This is what I want to leave them. And so, there with one individual, it was like almost like a back and forth thing. And I was like, first of all, I don't know you that well to have a back and forth with you, you know but again, that was our the belief was different. We had separate belief systems. They felt like, well, if you get married, we should be I'm not selling my home for you. But that was my belief, and that was for my because of my values. Going back to, I value family. I value that with my whole heart, and so I want to make sure that family is good. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. And I know for certain that when you started off that conversation with the first of all, that he knew right then that that was a wrap. But
You would have thought he did. You would have,
first of all,
if you know me, then you know it was not a, oh no, oh
right.
no, it was the base and the,
I,
hold
I
up, wait
cringe.
a minute.
I cringe because even now, and this is not even when it really happened. Well, first of all, it's like, oh Lord.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then too, I am, people think I'm so tough, I'm so hard, but my delivery is never really like that. You are the bubbly, friendly, oh, and everybody, oh, she's so sweet, and she is. But when it comes down to business and they're looking at me with my, me and my dryness, but I'm the first one that will, I hate to say sugarcoat it, but I try to address it in a different way. That, first of all, is real strong. And I know you were just putting it out there, and you did say that, though. Of that, I am sure. But you do want the person to understand where you're coming from and know that you're passionate about it. And I know that that's where that was coming from.
Hmm.
The first of all, because that is something that is dear to your heart, and we tend to change our mannerism, our tone, everything changes that when we are, have something dear to the heart, and your children are that for you. It is an individual choice, like selling the home, and because it generates wealth. Um, a lot of people think, and I'm one that shares, if God did it once, he can do it again. But if he doesn't have to, he doesn't have to. I get your point of view as well. Um, but for you, you want to make sure that your children are good. I see nothing wrong with, especially if that person is in agreement, but you guys have to have that conversation. Let's build together. This was already established. He probably will have a home as well. You have to decide, am I going to move into yours, or are we going to sell his or rent that out, or whatever you want to do, and we start fresh. But I always look at things like, okay, that's two mortgages plus one, that's three. You may not always be able to have those things occupied. So it's so many different conversations that will have to be had with that. But the bottom line is, it's on an individual basis. There's no right or wrong when it comes to that. It's what's right for you. It's for what's right for you as a couple. But the conversation has to be had, be true to who you are. Because some people will hold that and be resentful. Well, I sold my home, or I got into debt and with a new home, and you still had that one, whatever it is. So you have to make sure that you guys are definitely both on the same page when it comes to that, about what is important. Going back to you and your values, all of that still ties into some of the same thing. You value your family, you value creating generational wealth, and how can I help, how can I do this or that. So those are definite discussions that need to be had. I did have those actual tough discussions, and we were in agreement with a lot, and some we weren't. And but we also were like, we're not going to battle things necessarily that's not here yet. Maybe some issues you may have to come back and revisit.
Hmm.
but the ones that are more important to you that you know will stand out, like you mentioned, the religion. I have so much history. I actually dated well, we went out a couple of times, but that was before I even, and I don't know why I didn't ask that first. This young man was an atheist.
Hmm.
He knew that I was Christian. That definitely was not going to work. And then later on, he would say, well, I believe in a higher being. And once I experienced on a hiking trip, and because the earth was so beautiful and doing this and this. And I'm looking like, eh, stop it, sir. So yeah, that's great. Well, I'm glad you had that experience. However, I know that this is big for me. God is big for me, and this will not work. I even said, well, what if we were to have children? He said he would go to church with me. I said, and mock my God. I said, and then what if we had children and I'm telling them about this and you're telling them this? And I said, in the house when we're facing a crisis, I'm trying to pray, and you don't see the importance of it. That would be a problem for me, and I knew that that would be huge and it could cause major problems. So I chose not to even go any further with that,
Yeah.
because I that that was an absolute deal breaker. You have to know what a deal breaker is for you.
And
And
you cannot run over your deal breaker. I am finding a lot of women will know what it is that they want, know what it is that they desire, know it, but will go and run over everything. I want a man that's going to be able to lead me, but they end up with a man that ends up following them. And it's like, come on, why? But now you're mad, but you knew he didn't have the capacity. He wasn't in a space where he could lead you. But
right.
yet you still chose to walk down this aisle or to be in this relationship with him. And you're mad. You can't be mad. Love is not enough when it comes down to you needing a husband or a mate to lead you in the right direction.
And then you turn around and blame that person for being just who they are, and you marry them being just who they are, and they don't get it. Like, what is the problem? You knew that this is who I was. And again, a wise counselor told me, you know that this you're trying to get orange juice from an apple.
Yeah.
uh, and it's like, wow, I am, this about this person, Stacy. What? And I'm like, yeah, but that's why it goes back to what I was saying, having that friend or that counselor that's not a yes girl, not a yes guy, that's going to say, look, you're being ridiculous, or however you guys
Right.
communicate. That is not smart, or that that is not fair. You will tell me when I'm wrong, when I'm in error. Say, well, hey, sis, you're bending. You know that I know you, and this is not how. Think about that. So that comes back to some of those other things that I think are needed. You have to have someone in your corner that is real. That is just like, no, that is not good. You were wrong. It's okay to have that, because sometimes people become a whole monster because no one ever holds them accountable.
That's yeah, and I think that's my problem throughout probably my whole life. Even as a little girl, I can remember looking and being like, is nobody gonna ever tell them they wrong? Y'all just gonna keep yesing them, yesing them, yesing them. I wanted to say this. We got probably about 10 more minutes. But I wanted to say, I used to be in love with somebody. When we talk about is love enough? So I used to be in love with somebody. I mean, like, just love them, like, oh gosh, nothing. I mean, they did a lot wrong. When I say a lot wrong, they did more wrong than what they did right. But it
Mhm.
was something about them that made me love them. And honestly, I believe it was just more so of a trauma bond. When I think about it, it was just we bonded over trauma. They went through stuff, I went through stuff, and we were able to sit down and talk about it and things of that nature. And I was like, wow, this person understands me. Well, they understands me. They understood me because of what the trauma they went through, and
Right.
that's all they understood about me. Um,
Right.
but their trauma caused them not to be a good person. It wasn't that they weren't a good person. Their trauma, unhealed trauma, caused them not to be a good person. And so, I would the expectation for me was to stay there until this person healed. And I stayed there, but the more I stayed, the more they broke me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so it was like, I love them. I love them. And I remember my sister telling me, um, one day she said, Bree, she said, you're so much better than what you're allowing yourself to go through. She said, you're allowing yourself to go through what you're going through because you don't have love for yourself. So
Yeah.
when you
And
think
but
about, I'm
you,
sorry. So when
you
you think about love, is love enough? And that's in something like that. The question goes back to, do you love your, is love enough for yourself enough to make you walk away from someone who doesn't love you, especially in the correct way, in the right way? Because some people say they love you, but their love is so toxic, their
yeah,
love is so dysfunctional that when they receive healthy love, they call it dysfunctional. They call that toxic. They said that's abnormal. People don't do that. And it's like, no, that's normal. No, really, really, person, that's normal. It's
yeah,
normal to love somebody when they're breaking down crying. What's not normal is that you're walking out the room when I need you the most.
right.
So when she said that to me, it made me think, and it made me say, you know what? I got to love me enough to walk away from this and never find myself in this situation again. Because if I love me, then I won't choose. I would make better decisions for myself. I would make better choices of partners for myself. You know what I'm saying? And so when we talk about is love enough for another person, it's never enough for you to stay in a situation where it's breaking you and it's destroying you and it is sucking the very life out of you.
Right. And so that you could apply that to yourself in that sense. Is love enough? Do you love yourself enough to walk away from this? Because I think what happens, we become, for lack of a better term, we feel obligated because I put in so much time. I've put
Yes.
so much money, and we feel like we're losing. And it's like it's got to work out.
Yeah.
That's been before. It has to happen,
Mm-hmm.
because why did this and why did that, and I have done all this. No, I can't walk away, and they're going to change. They're going to be better. Not if they don't want to. You can't do enough. You can't say enough. You can't love them enough. It's not going to get better if they don't finally see it for themselves. You can't prove it. The harder that you try, the more they may resist.
Yeah.
You, it's love is a choice.
It's a choice and it's a daily choice. And it's the
Yeah,
type of love that you're willing. It's the type. I always tell people this: unless you understand the love that God has for you
right,
and the amount of love that I mean, God would literally knock down walls. He would stop the earth. He would stop time, to get to you. And so if he says that he will give you his very best, why do we accept the very least from our
right.
partners? And so I look at those that I counsel and I listen to how they talk and I say, they don't love themselves. You got into something before you was ready, really. You did this out of your emotions that were faulty and they were broken and people pressured you and told you this is you can't do things like that. What you got to do, one of the comments that was made earlier, and the person said you got to be honest with yourself and understand that your desire for a relationship is more than your desire to actually know who you are and to actually love yourself and
Well,
to wait and to get what you actually deserve. I don't deserve the bottom of the barrel.
and that is true. And sometimes I think I always ask myself, and I advise people, whether it's the work, whether it's friendship, but since we're talking about relationships that haven't worked in the past, what was your takeaway? You have to ask yourself, even if it was, hellacious, it was this, what was your takeaway? What did you get from that? Because if nothing else, it should help you see who you are and who you are not. Don't beat yourself up because, oh, I loved him so hard. I gave him all. God loves that kind of unconditional love, the heart that you have. The thing is, stop giving it to the undeserving. You don't change and become hardened. You just change who you give that to. And so, even in those other relationships, getting to know yourself is sometimes done through relationships, even a friendship. Well, I need this. I need my friend to be more compassionate. I need my friend to be more whatever. Same thing, even in a bad relationship. Okay, he was a good provider, but he was a liar. Okay, you're still learning you. I can't deal with that. Being a good provider is not enough. You're still learning who you are. Be able to separate your needs from a want, from what is that deal breaker that we talked about. What length are you willing to go to? So taking the time to learn yourself before you even pull someone into a relationship is key. But also, all those past experiences, even as a child, have helped formulate who you are. So
Mhm.
knowing who you are will actually help you in that relationship field. Well, education is important to me. I need a man that can communicate. I need a man that can hold a conversation, that has read a book, that can go beyond my basic hello, beautiful, good morning, beautiful. Talk to me in depth. So you
Chad, let's get it. That can be a show all by. If I get another text message, hello, gorgeous, hello, beautiful. If I get another, you cannot court me over no dang on text. I cannot get to know you. That is in your 20s stuff. That is, and I don't want that. And so many women are willing to tolerate that. Women, all of you who are single and listening to me, listen to me when I tell you, if he cannot pick up that phone and articulate himself, if he cannot have a conversation, he cannot converse with you, baby, he is not the one. He is not ready. He is not capable to be who you need him to be right now. Perhaps later on, but you keep on dating because he is not the one. You need to get to know a person, and you would never get to know a person via text. That is just bottom line.
and
That
the
is
and
just
part of
bottom
the world says that that's the norm, actually. And there are a lot of younger people, that's how they communicate, but you have to break that. That is, it's so impersonal to me, and it can have tone. It You can be so misunderstood. So, I agree. I agree. I'm old school.
And
But
look, Jacqueline says she don't want it from her husband. If you don't want it from your husband, I sure don't want it from no man trying to be my husband.
right,
Sure don't. He need
right.
to go on down the road somewhere because I don't have time to. I will look. I have learned a new term. And it's called ghosting. So I have learned how to
Oh Lord.
ghost. I've learned how to disappear and never you look
Nope.
and they never hear from me again because there are certain things I'm not going to deal with. And I want us to talk about this real fast. This is something that is going on, ladies, single ladies. Listen to this, what I'm about to tell you as professional. Love bombing. Love bombing is at an all-time high. Be weary of men who come in strong, of
Excuse me.
men who come in like a knight in shining armor. Beware, because a lot of times men that come in strong like that have alternative alternative motives. They have motives. Do not get caught up in that type of relationship. Don't get caught up in that because they come in. Let me tell you, I just told somebody this earlier today. And I know we have been hearing the term narcissism. Oh, that's something everybody's using. Everybody, no, 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 no. I want you to be aware. The enemy is operating at an all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
And this is truly the season of the bride. It is truly a season where God is answering. He is sending the answers to your prayers. He is sending your husband. He is sending them. But the enemy is also sending counterfeits.
Yeah.
And so you
Yeah.
will be totally caught off guard with somebody who is constantly oh, he's so attentive. Oh, he's being everything that I wanted in a man. And this, if you don't, honey, I am queen of background. I should have been, my part-time should have been a detective. Baby, I would dig and dig. I would call your mama. If you don't know me, you better know me. I would call your mama, your grandma. I would call your ex. I would call your children because I don't play when it comes down to who I'm going to enter into a relationship with. Because number one, if you have ever lost yourself in a relationship and you have had to find yourself again, that is the hardest work you will ever do. And you will bend over backwards. You will go into a figure eight, baby, before you go back down that road again. And
Right.
so I don't care. I want you ladies to be more careful. I want you to be more prayerful. I want you to be more discerning, because you deserve somebody who's going to love you, but with the right kind of love, not that false kind of love to come in and bombard you with a bunch of crap and don't mean near word of it. People are
Right.
being killed, people are being taken advantage of, and people literally our lives are being shattered because men and women are coming in
Yeah.
like a flood and acting like they're all this and all that until they get in real good with you and they got your guard down, and then you trying to figure out why you got a 5 for a credit score. It's because you don't got your car. It's because you don't use your credit. Because you thought they loved you. You don't brought your own wedding ring because they ain't had the money to buy it, but you so blinded by this love bombing. And these
Yeah.
are real situations. So
Yeah.
I just want to put that out there. Please, please, please don't be so thirsty, but be ever discerning. Because I promise you, if you wait on the Lord, you're going to get what you are supposed to get. You're going to be with the one you're supposed to be with. Amen.
Right. Yeah. So I agree with that. That, I know that you're wrapping it up, but that love bombing is, I didn't realize that was the term. Um, but yeah, they come and sweep you off your feet and they say those things. And I'm not even sure that sometimes people are very much aware of what they're doing. They do have that ulterior motive, but some of them don't even know that's what it is. They
Mhm.
come in with all of that, but oftentimes it's because once you get to see the real them, you're gonna run, you're gonna turn away. So they give you all the things that they've learned and picked up, or what they've even gotten from you in your conversation. So we have to be careful about our conversation. They've learned how you want to be loved, and they can put up that facade as if that's what you're receiving.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, everyone has to be who he or she is. And so you'll get that for a little bit, and the true person surfaces. And so because you have been so smothered and covered,
Mhm.
with all that other stuff, you think, and so you're in total shell shock when the true person arrives. Like, wait a minute, but that is just, that's how it is. It's like, let me give you all of this, and they may feel like they're giving you the very best of them, and then that's it. They've come into a brick wall, because that's all they have, and what's left is the true being. So
Yeah.
we have to be careful. We think, oh, he's really into me. He's, well, maybe, but maybe not. So just
Mhm.
slow down
Hey,
and
bye.
go.
I'm listening.
No, yeah, just slow down and go a little bit further. That's all.
Yeah. And a lot of times, I want to say this too, and I know I'm trying to wrap it up, but if we allow people to be who they are, stop telling people what you want on dates. I'm not about to tell you what I want. I want you to be who you are, because I don't want you to try to bend to what I want. I want you to be who you are so I can make a very informative decision on if I want to continue on in this. That I'm telling you, because
Yeah,
we do more talking about what we want and what we desire. This is what I want in a man, or this is what I want in a woman. I want my woman to blah blah blah. But it's like, let the person be who they are,
yeah,
and you can make a very informative decision. I remember, and this is no shade on anybody. So someone had given me some flowers, and I was like, oh, that is so sweet, that is so sweet. And one of my friends was asked, she said, ask them if they're going to be able to keep it up. And that was a very smart question, because I wasn't even thinking about it. They were like, ask them if they're going to be able to keep it up. And I thought to myself, wow. So I asked, and they were like, they gave me the answer, which let me know, no, don't ask me no more for no flowers. That's how I took it. But
right,
I told them what I wanted. That's why I got them. But
right.
it's not in their DNA to do on a regular basis, which is fine. There's no shade on that. But had I not said what I like, I never would have gotten them, because that's not who this person was. You
Yeah, and
understand what I'm saying? And so we do so much of telling somebody
yeah,
what we want, or who we want, what type of man we want. things of that nature. And it's like, that's not gonna fly, because you gonna get a portion of a person that has bent towards you or what you like just to get you, and that's all they're doing. They're not going to keep it up to keep you.
Right. It goes back to what we said in the very, very beginning. Knowing when to share, what to share, not too much. Oversharing can have an adverse effect. We think that we're letting them know because, oh, they need to know. Sometimes you can show people who you are, they'll pay attention, and sometimes they'll get their own meaning behind what they see, and you may have to clear it up. But nevertheless, don't overshare either. Real quick, I know for me, my husband, it was, I can't remember what holiday, and he's like, Stacey, I am not buying, and this is a husband, I'm not buying an expensive bag for this, because of this. Because he asked me for it. So I'm going to send you some ideas of things, of some things that I want, as gifts. And so I listed some things, and he's like, I'm not doing that. There's more important other stuff than this. But I'm like, okay, but you asked. But at the same time, in his head, that is just who she is. But I'm like you. I said, what are you talking about? I said, every time you think to do something nice for me, it doesn't have to have a huge price tag. Do you know how in love I am with hydrangeas? Do you know how in love I would be with a card? Or the best thing that he could have done was a text that I received, and it says, you are the best wife to date, because he's a cut up, he's a comedian, and then to date, as if no, forever there is no to date, the but
Yeah.
that was more than any purchase, any bag or whatever. So sometimes people read too much into what they see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what we can teach people who we are and what we like, but at the same time, it still comes back to the communication and getting to know, yes, I like those things, but they don't make or break me. I'm so much more than that. And so again, the communication, that's right up there with the love, apparently, because some people would draw their own conclusion, and that's not it. And it's you miss each other because of that. Well, she's materialistic. Actually, I'm not. I like that stuff, but it doesn't make or break me. You or these things from the heart are more important. So again, but it just takes time, and you have to be willing to share. But it's just a building block. That's all. But
Oh,
you just think of that.
oh
You
yeah,
know.
I always tell people, I said with my ex, I said if he never would, if he didn't do, I ain't gonna say what he did. We probably would have still been together, because I said a lot of men, if he was to do a class of our relationship and how he got to know me, he literally studied me. He was a
Yeah.
study. So
Yeah.
I never had to tell him what I wanted. I never had to tell him what I liked. He just knew. He knew that my child was important. So he became important to him. You know what I mean? He knew that it didn't take a lot to please me, but he did a lot to please me. He
Right.
knew that, I liked words of affirmation. So he always affirmed who I was. You look good. You look nice. Girl, you losing weight. Oh, you got a flat, things like that. And he knew it would boost me up. So he knew, because he studied me. These were things I never had to say to him. And I'm like, a lot of times, if we just study the person that we're with,
Right.
they never have to open their mouth. I love to study the behavior of people. And so people are like, how did you know? Because I listened and I studied you. I saw how you walked. I figured out why you move the way you move and things of that nature. So I know what you like. So, but yeah, so everybody, I thank you, Stacey, for joining me. This was last minute. I said I wanted to get on here. It was in my heart. And so I think we had a very productive conversation. Is love enough? Ladies, again, in your romantic relationships and your friendships, love is not always enough. You got to understand that two cannot walk together unless they truly agree. Honesty, communication, intimacy, um, and just all this other stuff, it wraps up into a relationship. Amen. And so unless you have that, then you're not going to be successful in your relationships, marriage, friendships, family ships. Families break down over not being honest with one another.
Mm-hmm.
So really got into that. But again, we're going to have a new episode coming up on Thursday. I hope you guys tune in Thursday at 6 p.m. Yes, Erica. Yes, knowing their love language. Oh my, that's
Yeah,
a show by itself. It, because guess what? Your love language truly, truly does change. We talked about that. If you haven't listened to being comfortable with strangers, I think we touched on that a little bit because you evolve. When you evolve, that means sometimes your love language will evolve and change as well. So yeah, that's really, really good. Again, I join us again 6 p.m. I got a man that has a story of how he overcame being sexually abused. I'm excited to bring him on and for others to learn how he overcame this as a man who is now married with children, but being sexually assaulted as a young child, especially being a man dealing with his sexuality and things of that nature. So I'm excited about that. Again, you guys, thank you for joining us. Tune in Thursday at 6 p.m. And until then, we will see you. Have a blessed night. And remember, I'm always praying for you. You're always in my prayers. Um, Thank you, Vonda. Thank you so much. Vonda is a very special friend of mine. She mentored my daughter, but she's just we wrote out. She wrote. I think we put out our books together as well. And she just, if y'all haven't gotten her book, go to her. It's Man Chaser. I think it's on Amazon. Go get her book. Very, very good read. I read it in one day, and it's just very, very good. So again, everybody, I love you. And until next time, I will be seeing you.